The global pandemic has changed a lot of plans in regards to certain movie releases, mainly because studios want to really make their return on investments for what they put into the films. And some of them are very much up in the air in terms of what they are going to do in the box office. The biggest of which is now Morbius, the tale of the living vampire from the Spider-Man universe. The first full trailer has been released after the teaser from earlier, and lots of curious things were shown in it. So allow us to show you 9 things you missed in the Morbius trailer. Number 9. New origin story. Obviously, Morbius isn't a well-known character outside of certain appearances in the comics and certain Spider-Man animated series, so the movie has to delve into how Morbius became the living vampire. But how the movie does it is slightly different than some expected. In the Spider-Man number 101 comic issue, Morbius is said to have grown up in isolation after his mother barred him from interacting with everyone else. This was due to his rare blood condition, which caused his legs to be weak and his body to be slightly deformed. He was also raised in Greece. However, in the new Morbius trailer, the character is shown in what looks like a boarding school. A bullying storyline might also be introduced. Not bad, since there wouldn't have been much to explore about his childhood if they just let him stay at home like in the comics. And furthermore, we see a look at the bat incident that leads to him getting his powers, but it's a very different take on how it happened in the comics and the animated series, so we'll see how all that goes. Number 8. Simon Stroud's arm. Tyrese Gibson will be playing Simon Stroud, who in the comics is a CIA agent who ends up being an operative for S.H.I.E.L.D. and later on a mercenary. In the trailer, he is briefly shown with other agents in what looks like the hunt in the woods. It's not exactly clear who they are going after. It might be Morbius, or maybe an entirely different villain. There is also some sort of high-tech armor on Stroud's right arm. Chances are that this armor is manufactured by S.H.I.E.L.D. and it's effective in neutralizing the powers of either Morbius or superpowered villains in general. Perhaps it is simply a killing instrument. We also see in the trailer that Stroud doesn't think that Morbius is a bad guy, even citing how he's a doctor and that he doesn't kill people. But that makes you wonder if that's true given certain scenes in the trailer itself. Number 7. Vulture. Okay, this is the big one for sure. Are Sony's movies connected or not to the MCU? Well, the question has been plaguing the minds of fans for years, and it turns out that the Spider-Verse is indeed linked to the MCU. The trailer's most shocking moment comes at the very end when Spider-Man Homecoming's villain Vulture, played by Michael Keaton, appears. In Homecoming, Vulture was defeated by Spider-Man before being imprisoned. In the trailer, Adrian Toomes is in a similar costume to the ones that fans last saw him in. Most importantly, he asks Morbius whether he got tired of doing the whole good guy thing, huh? Which implies a possible team-up. Now, neither of them really like Spidey after all, or at least one of them does, as we don't know Morbius' connection to Spidey yet. But in the full trailer, we see Toomes state that him and the Doc should stay in touch, and that many hope that these Sinister Six are coming in a future movie. And with Vulture, Morbius, Venom possibly, Scorpion, also possible, being the building blocks of it, who knows what might come next. Number 6. Vampiric powers. The trailer teases what's likely to be a big part of the movie's first act, when Dr. Michael Morbius transforms from a brilliant disabled man who's been struggling with a rare blood disease his entire life, into the scarier Morbius the living vampire. What follows his transformation is taken straight from his comic book origin story, as the boat attack is the first time that he loses control over his newly gained powers, and also what first gets him notoriety and the watching eye of authorities. Overall, the main trailer works mostly as a showcase for Morbius' powers, which include the usual enhanced strength, agility, speed, and senses, plus unique vampiric traits such as a bat-like sonar, flying, and menacing fangs and claws. Naturally, being a vampire has its drawbacks like the thirst for blood and the need to hunt, much like a certain famous symbiote. Oh, and then speaking of that symbiote, number 5, San Francisco. Toward the end of this preview, Morbius refers to himself as Venom when confronting another man, and though he jokingly says he's just messing around, this is further proof that people in this version of New York are very much aware of Venom. This is again highlighted when some of the dialogue mentions the events in San Francisco, a definitive nod to Let There Be Carnage. Although Morbius was originally meant to come out before the Venom sequel, the later possibly got moved up ahead to take better advantage of its proximity to Spider-Man No Way Home. And this of course further raises the question of whether these two different universes are indeed connected to one another. Signs are pointing to yes more and more, especially after the events of Let There Be Carnage. Number 4. Oscorp and more. Above all, it's clear that Sony wants to keep those Spider-Man Easter eggs on the forefront, and the first one to pop up is the Oscorp logo from Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man movies. While this is supposed to be the Venom universe, Let There Be Carnage already featured a couple shots of the printed Daily Bugle from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, and that ended up with Venom getting closer than ever to Peter Parker. Of course, Sony decided to have some fun with another Daily Bugle from the Tobey Maguire era, carefully placed in Morbius, only that this one may have some useful info. The newspaper's front page features headlines such as Black Cat, Friend or Foe, and Rhino on the Loose. And even if Second Looks looks like simple wordplay, the enigmatic Black Cat reference does sound like a J. Jonah Jameson headline for another character that Sony has plans for in the future. Number 3. The Villain. Not surprisingly, the teaser and the first main trailer for the film focuses a lot on Morbius and his transformation into being a vampire. But that does raise the question of who will he be using his powers against? Loxias Crown, played by Matt Smith, will probably be the main antagonist, after he gains similar powers to his friend Morbius but settles on a darker path than the titular anti-hero. We've only seen a few shots of him in the film's trailers, but the setup is there. It would also be possible that Morbius is being framed for the attacks on the boat and other spots because of Loxias, and that's just speculation at this point. Number 2. Leading Lady. Who is that lady standing in the lab with Morbius? It's Martine Bancroft, played by Adria Arjona, who recently appeared in 6 Underground. In the Amazing Spider-Man number 102 issue, Martine appears as the love interest of Dr. Morbius. She is also the one who helps him create a unique treatment in the hope of curing his pseudo-vampirism. A movie that's as serious and dark as this one could do with a love story to mellow it down. Will Martine stick by Michael? In the comics, she doesn't. And many of you may recall in the classic Spider-Man animated series, Morbius had a long-term relationship with Felicia Hardy, aka Black Cat. So there are many ways that this one could go. Number 1. Transformation. Okay, so here's the biggest question. Over the course of both trailers, we see both forms of Michael Morbius, meaning that we will see his regular form, aka pure Jared Leto, just ripped, but we also see his vampire form, especially in the full trailer. Now in the comics, he doesn't get to go in and out of his transformation due to his experiment, but here it appears that he has some control over the transformation like Venom, or at least he does it first. Now whether that sticks, well, that's all up in the air. But either way, it will be interesting to see what is going on with this film when it finally comes out in January. So what do you think? What do you think of this look at Morbius and all the things that the trailer showed and didn't show that might inform you as to how the movie might just turn out for you? Do you think that this movie will be like Venom and be a surprise hit? Or do you think that the interest in it is going to be lower than many expect? Let us know in the comments below, and we will see you next time on the channel.